From the Track Family Fun Parks, please welcome Craig Wescott.
Good morning. First of all, thank you to Biz 417's for throwing such great parties and events, and thank you for having me today. First thing I'd like you to know about me is I do enjoy a heel click. I do typically reserve these for the embarrassment of my daughters in public, but occasionally, twice actually, I have wanted to capture this excitement on film. As you can see from my facial expression, I was very excited to get my dream car, Sunny. The second one I'm going to tell you about today, and I promised that my heels were together milliseconds before or after that shot, is one of my favorite stories to tell. Just to give you a little background, with the Track Family Fun Parks, my dad started this company in 1981. We have 3 family entertainment centers in Branson, if you've maybe visited those before. Our features for the last several years have been these high-rise go-kart tracks. They've added a lot of energy since we've been building them since 2001. Another thing that really has intrigued us through the years are Ferris wheels. We were intrigued with this idea mainly because of the synergy of Branson, the Ozark Mountains, the entertainment. We just felt like it was a great fit. So I'm going to go ahead and give you a very brief history on Ferris wheels. In 1893, a bridge builder named George Washington Gale Ferris Jr. Created this Ferris wheel. It was for the Chicago's Columbian Expo. What a lot of people don't know, it was a monster. It held 2,100 people. It was 264 feet tall, most amount of steel used in one project at that point in time. What a lot of people don't know is it was actually built to rival the Eiffel Tower, which was built 4 years before at a similar expo. America didn't want to be outdone, and this was America's answer. So I'm going to fast forward about 100 years. This is a picture of a park in 1990 called El Tivoli de Canarias. It's in Spain's Canary Islands, right off the northwest coast of Africa. This park actually tried to get open from 1974 to 1990, never actually opened to the public. This is the most complete the park ever was. But this Ferris wheel, as it got taken down, 5 years later, the Navy Pier in Chicago bought this wheel. It became an icon there. It was ridden by 17 million people. It was there for 20 years. It's in every picture of the Chicago skyline, great views of downtown and Lake Michigan. And what happened also in Chicago, let's not forget it became a celebrity there. So this is the very Ferris wheel that Tristan Ford climbed up on in the Divergent series. It also was in Transformers, one of the movies. It was in other movies and TV shows. So basically what happened is they wanted a new observation wheel in Chicago, double the size, heat, kind of an important factor in Chicago, and we bought their old one. And it started with an email, October 5th, 2015, and we opened June 23rd, 2016. Just to give you a little perspective, this arrow normally would be probably 2 to 3 times longer for a project like this. For instance, the ride we're building right now, a new thrill ride called Skyscraper, we've actually been doing due diligence on this ride for years and are pulling the trigger for this spring. This was a very expedited process. I'm going to show you a video that sums up the last 4 months of that project. That sound means that the Navy Pier Ferris wheel that has been in Chicago, a part of the Skyline for 20 years, is heading to Branson, Missouri.
Driving me insane. I kind of feel like I saw the light. You got me way up 1,000 miles.
We are pumped up and excited.
Right here in this atmosphere, like we're flying.
We're just gonna enjoy this moment for just a second.
Up this high, we'll never hit the ground. Don't look down. I see that sky, we're gonna reach it now. Do you feel the lightning inside of you?
We now have 215 pieces of the Ferris wheel in our parking lot.
We're hoping to start assembly sometime in April.
This high, we'll never hit the ground.
So we are 3 weeks from opening and we are super excited. And we're moving right along. It's sat in a very nice looking state and it's nice shiny white for weeks now. This was the day we've been waiting for.
Are your hands shaking? Are your fists breaking? Are you climbing over walls? Are the times changing? Is the voice fading? 'Cause I wanna give it all. I kinda feel like I saw the light. You got me way up 1,000 miles. Can we stay right here in this atmosphere? Or are you afraid to fall? Don't look down. Up this high, we'll never hit the ground. Don't look down. I see that sky, we're gonna reach it now. Do you feel the lightning inside of you? Will you follow through if I fall for you? Don't look down. Up this high, we'll never hit the
Thank you. I was just remembering the last time I did this presentation, it was for the Branson Junior High TEDx, and when that couple kissed when they were looking at the Ferris wheel, it got really awkward. It was great. So let me give you Branson Ferris wheel by the numbers. It took 26 semis from Chicago to get it to Branson. 150 gallons of paint to make it shiny and new, 144,000 new LED lights. This structure weighs 450,000 pounds, sitting on a foundation of holes that are 23 feet deep and this wide in solid rock, 80,000 pounds of steel, 4 million pounds of concrete, and 6 million pounds of gravel. So this baby is not going anywhere. So I'm going to tell you what a Ferris wheel has taught me about life. Number one is never miss a chance to meet somebody new. I stand here today and we own this iconic Ferris wheel because I made sure I had lunch with a guy. I was at a conference not unlike this, met this person, knew that he operated, it's actually Matt right here next to me in the photo. Met him, knew that he operated and owned a Ferris wheel on the coast, wanted to pick his brain, wanted to just take it all in and talk to him. We had a great conversation. I don't promise you an iconic Ferris wheel out of any conversation you may have today or in the future, but you never know how you're going to connect with people. Two is keep up with those relationships. So this was in January of 2015 when I met Matt. In June, I emailed him and I said, hey, there's a lot going on in Branson. Things are happening, the vibe is good, investment's going, things are changing. Can we talk about this Ferris wheel thing again? And good conversations, but we just kept bottom lining it that we couldn't make a new observation wheel, as they sell now, work financially. And so we held off. However, October 5th, the email that changes my life, he emails me and he says, Craig, I think I have something for you. The Navy Pier is selling their iconic Ferris wheel. I think you can get it for a fraction of the cost. It's in good shape. We just wrote it. What do you think? And I mean, I hadn't even finished the email and I was all over it. I was in, no matter what. And so, however, a couple weeks later, a few weeks, Matt calls me and he says, I have some horrible news. As we're getting the process going, we've got drones going up, looking at views and all this. And he says, I got bad news. They sold the wheel to a city in Mexico. I mean, it was right there. We were emotionally in. We were excited about this project. Thankfully, for our sake, I guess, 2 weeks later, Matt emails me and he says, guess what? It's back available again, but if you're going to move on it, you better make a move quickly. So that's exactly what we did. The other thing about relationships is we keep really good relationships with our bankers, our vendors, our contractors, city officials, chamber, CVB, and if we didn't have those relationships that we had in that time, this project would have been impossible. 3 is take the leap of faith. And in our case, I would say take the leaps of faith. From that second email, basically, we knew other cities were interested, Pittsburgh and other cities, and we put $50,000 down, which is a lot of money for our company, knowing that we could lose every bit of it if anything fell through. So here's the list of things that we didn't have when we put $50,000 down. Let's see. There was approval from the bank. There was the land that we needed next door, a 50-foot variance in height, which would take us a process to go through the city, Navy Pier's blessing to really keep telling this history. There was a whole list of things, and just the no guarantee that the timing was actually going to work to get this thing open to start it cash flowing the way we needed it to. And we were in the middle of buying out our business partner, who was retiring at the time, was the major shareholder of our company. And so we were absolutely nuts for doing what we did. There is no doubt. So I could tell you that there are many times, and I'm really like this, generally I like to have all the ducks in a row, but at times you've got to just pull the trigger, seize the moment, and take that leap of faith. Number 4 is, excuse me, new isn't always better. So I am a guitar player, as you'll find out, at 415 at the Drink Summit, plug. My wife thinks I own too many guitars, but the thing about it is I've actually learned to really appreciate used, almost more than new. I love walking into a pawn shop, feeling these, playing these guitars. They've been played, the cases are beat up, you know they've been places, there's stories there. And the extreme example, I bought a guitar that had a bullet hole through the case, and I'm very glad I wasn't there for that story in particular. But I tell you what we got, something money couldn't buy. We got 17 million stories that came with what we bought. So fast forward, all those things that really could have gone wrong all went right. January 28th, we get our variance, height variance approved through the city. We're ready to go January 29th. We've got a press release ready to go. It's going to be sent out to 20,000 press contacts across the country. We usually send 50, I don't know, something like that. We partnered with the CVB. This had a very good Branson angle to it, and we decided to do that, and it came with this video was attached in that press release. So we sent that at 9 o'clock a.m. At 9:10, the Chicago Tribune calls me. Hello, this is Chicago Tribune. It was crazy. I thought that was crazy. And then 3 NPR stations called, and travel shows called, and the Weather Channel called, wanting to put a weather cam on it, and Fox News Radio called, and USA Today, and it just went on, and me and Julie and some of the CVB team took calls all day long. It was a day like I could never describe. But by the end of the day, I actually finally sat down at my computer and I read it in the Los Angeles Times all the way to the New York Times. In the end, not just the first day, but throughout, 150 press contacts from all over the country, locally, regionally, country, and actually even beyond. 150. It became one of the most positive news stories in Branson's history. So we spent $4 million-ish on this wheel. I thought it was going to cost $2.5 million, and quickly decided when the holes went deeper that was not the case. You know, if we would have spent 10 to 25 million or beyond on a new observation wheel, we wouldn't have gotten anything like we did with this. Number 5 is do it right the first time. Even though this was a ridiculously expedited process, there were some things we wanted to do right initially. We had the most amazing team of international engineers, working with our local contractors, working with our internal employees, and it was the coolest thing ever to watch. Another thing, as I mentioned this before, but we wanted to make this thing our own. We wanted to honor its history, but we really wanted to make it our own. It needed a coat of paint, so we had steel strung out everywhere from the time trucks rolled in February all the way till when we opened. I actually didn't realize that paint could cost hundreds of dollars per can, but as it turns out, it can. And that was the finished product. And then there were the lights. So we actually loved the Navy Pier vintage, old school, incandescent lights. But for many reasons, we decided we wanted to upgrade to an LED system. In our industry, we know the right people to go to. We had proposals from the best lighting companies in the world. And a guy, Michael Haygood, that performs 2 blocks from us over a beer one night, says, hey, what are you guys doing for lights? And, you know, we kind of going through the process, and he said, hey, I think that I could do something that nobody else can do. And we didn't, I don't know that we didn't believe him, but we were just like, you know, we had proposals from all these companies. Anyway, long story short, 3 to 4 meetings later, he convinced us he could do something that nobody else could. And man, did he ever. Here is our track facility, number 4, before the Ferris wheel. Up in the trees above those blue buildings there, in the trees, there's a mini golf course. You can't really see it because of the trees there. That was the before shot. And here's what it looks like now. And what an impact that Michael Haygood made. But beyond making the decision to actually buy this Ferris wheel, choosing Michael Haygood was the best thing we ever did. Because the next piece is make everything a bigger deal. It's beautiful as it sits there, but we decided, what if we created the concept like Bellagio fountains? Let's get people here. Hey, Michael, can we set this thing to music? Absolutely. So we set it to music. It's called Electrify, a music and light spectacular. It plays on the hour, every hour. It's different music, and it's exceptional. Actually, as far as lighting and what Michael Haygood was able to do for us, in our industry, it's known as one of the most well-lit amusement rides in the world. So pretty crazy. We're always pinching ourselves. The other thing, our mission is to create unforgettable moments. These are a few of those moments. We've actually had, and we knew this from Chicago, they told us these things would happen, but we've had 3 or 4 weddings on the wheel. We have had engagements, we have had anniversaries, we've had birthdays from 1 to Alice at 100. We've celebrated special causes, we've celebrated special days. We even had an unofficial attempt at the most number of Santa Clauses on an amusement ride, which was pretty fun. Last year we had our first gender reveal party, and so basically what we did was customize an Electrify show, and at the very end of it, it shined bright blue, and there they were. It was awesome. And then there's this. Yeah. This resulted in more guest complaints than we've had in our 38 years. You know, the old girl just wanted to pay tribute to her old team back home. Chicago Cubs hadn't been in the World Series for 100 years. So, you know, we kept this up for 3 minutes, long enough to take this picture, and then we took it down because it just wasn't working so well for our guests. Oops, I could have missed one there. Lastly, take a breath, celebrate, and reconnect. I took this picture at about 5 in the morning between a bunch of live cut-in newscasts. We hadn't slept, I don't think, for months, but we sure hadn't slept that night before grand opening. And I just remember it was dead quiet and just taking it in. And don't forget to do that when you finish something big. But then, of course, celebrate. We threw, I think, one of the most fun grand opening parties anybody's ever thrown. It was a great, from day all the way till night with live bands and everything. And then on the reconnect side, I would just say, when you do a big project or have something really big going on, there's a really good chance you're taking time away from your family, your friends, things that you usually do. My daughter, actually, I didn't know this till after the fact, but there's that song, I'm forgetting who it's by. It was popular at the time, called Unsteady. A little unsteady, that song. Claire, my daughter, said, do not play that around Dad, because he is unsteady. I'm like, yes, that's true. But I didn't actually, I don't know that I did a great job of this, but to reconnect with everybody and the family and the people in your company or whoever or whatever you've been missing out on. And it may take longer than the project took, but make sure you reconnect with people. So I've talked all about the past. We're excited about the future with this too. Later this year, we're going to welcome our 500,000th rider on the wheel, which will be a great milestone for us. We also have a lot of other things that will roll out this year and in the future. Even though this was such an expedited process to get this wheel, we had a lot of other things in mind having to do with the larger demographics that visit Branson and all that sort of thing. So we're excited on what else can happen in the future. So this pile of steel and everything that came with it, severe sleep deprivation, laughs, cries, stress, hanging out with good people all the time trying to get something done, hanging out with German engineers, learning German cuss words. I mean everything about it. This has been one of the most, it's created some of my most cherished memories I've ever had in my life. So I've taken a lot from it in my own life. I hope that some of this has resonated with you as well. I will be around to chat if you'd like to later, and you can be sure I will be with guitar in hand and probably a mother's brew at 4:15. Thank you very much.